Good morning, folks. Early in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States. And this is a topic that I really wish I didn't have to discuss, but it does need to be discussed. I've now met in person at least one person who's facing this and been in contact with others who claim that they're facing it. What am I talking about? Well, a cascade of circumstances has put some refugees in a situation where they are being threatened with eviction. Which leads me to the question, how is it Somalis and others who've been here for years and experienced the same sort of lack of support on their arrival as refugees manage to stay in the homes and not get evicted? Who's paying for their homes? Somalis, Ukrainians, others. But South Africans are getting a really raw deal here, some of them. And I don't understand why it's happening. Is it a consequence of agencies and case officers? Is it a consequence of USCIS? Is it a consequence of the Social Security Administration? Or is it a consequence of their own failures? Well, I submit to you that it's a combination of all those things to varying degrees. USCIS has a stated goal of 30 days to deliver an employment authorization document. Given the current climate in which employers are terrified that they'll be fined for hiring illegal aliens, many employers are demanding or asking for employment authorization documents, which is their prerogative. They're not required to, but many of them are doing it out of deep concern they don't want to hire illegal aliens. Fair enough. USCIS has a stated goal of 30 days. However, that is not the case. One of the 59ers waited at least 9 months to get an EAD. Now, the refugees are hostage when it comes to an EAD. You have no control over it. The EAD is produced by the U.S. government through USCIS and sent to your case officer. Now, those who out-migrate and don't get it, we've got snarky, mean, evil case agencies who simply refuse to send it to you just to make you suffer. Now, that is immoral and I suspect illegal, but it has happened. We also have a situation where case officers don't follow up on this. But this isn't entirely the case officer's fault. It's also the federal government. I know devoted case officers who have requested this information and followed it up week after week without results. Denying a refugee their employment authorization document is a recipe for disaster. It's also immoral, and it needs to stop. USCIS needs to get this under control and get their act together, or whoever's responsible for this. They owe this to these people. Social Security Administration. I don't understand what the problem with Social Security Administration is. I realize they went through a personnel decline last year, but that doesn't explain what's going on here. Some refugees get their Social Security card within 7 days of arrival. Others get it within the first month. But many are experiencing a situation in which they don't get it until much later. Now, I've told refugees, don't rely on your case officer. If you have a lazy or useless case officer, go out and do it yourself. Every Social Security Administration office is different. Some take only by appointment. Some take walk-ins. Some do both. You need to look on Google, search for Social Security Administration offices near me, and find offices near you. And then somehow get yourself there and do the application if it's not happening. Now, the Social Security Administration itself suggests, as I said previously, that you wait 10 working days because when you arrive, you go through immigration, it says awaiting approval. USCIS has to confirm your arrival back in D.C. apparently, and that happens within a number of business days. And then they can go in and see your I-94 and it says approved. We've had cases where people have gone in before the 10 working days and it still says waiting approval, and then they go back to their home or their hotel and their case officer doesn't follow up, or the Social Security Administration doesn't follow up, and it just sits there, waiting. But the moment that refugees who are approved for the program under the Immigration and Nationality Act arrive in America, they're legally authorized to work. The only stumbling block should be a Social Security card, and that should be in 7 to 10 days. They shouldn't have to wait any longer than that. There is a serious problem going on here. South Africans not being able to find work because they're being hindered by the Social Security Administration and by USCIS, or one or the other, or both. This is unacceptable. The amount of money that's granted to refugees is a pittance. It's insufficient to pay for deposits and monthly rent and food and medical and things like that. And while we're at it, the 48 days it can take to get into the Medicaid system is unacceptable as well. The refugees are led to believe, erroneously or mistakenly believe or misled, that they are covered when they arrive. And we're finding out that it takes up to 48 days for some to be covered. These actions put these refugees at risk. And I'm beginning to wonder if it isn't intentional. It's happening far too often in far too many places. Now, I also said that refugees bear responsibility for this as well. You have to be proactive. You have to be a go-getter. You have to push and try respectfully to get your documentation and find yourself a job. You can't sit back and wait for things to happen. But in the cases I'm talking about, I'm not aware of anyone who sat back and waited for things to happen. They're now being threatened with eviction. And this is in no small measure because agencies who were supposed to pay their rent sat on their money and refused to pay their rent despite their request, or they don't answer their telephone calls. We're talking about cases that still have money and grant money sitting there that agencies have refused to pay. Now, I came across one agency where this happened in Las Vegas, and it was simply a clerical error, and it was fixed the same day. But we're talking about people now who have not had their April rent paid. It's already May. That was supposed to be paid a month ago. Now they're facing eviction because their agency, who has their grant money, refused to pay the rent. We've also known of many cases where lazy case officers have given cell phones, mobile phones to refugees and then failed to pay the bill and their phones get turned off. This needs to stop. Office of Refugee Resettlement, we need you to please investigate these cases of evictions or potential evictions. How is it can Somalis who don't do anything, 75% who apparently still live on public aid despite having come over the last 30 years, aren't being evicted from their homes? But South Africans are about to be turned out in the street, according to their own statements. Now, I find it hard to believe because I'll tell you what, every refugee who finds himself thrown out in the street needs to contact me immediately. And I will make your refugee agency famous. Make them famous. I don't think these agencies want bad press about how they mismanage your case and you're out on the street. Remember MCRC in Erie, Pennsylvania, whose director sits on 2 boards for safe, affordable, sanitary housing? And we saw the hovel, the drug den, or former drug den that they put Jared in. You think these agencies want people to see what they're doing to refugees? And if they're doing this to South Africans, have they been doing it all along? Some of them have. All right, folks. No one should face this nonsense. This is a difficult process, but it's being made more difficult by the failures of multiple actors. Now, at the same time, Social Security Administration is issuing Social Security numbers to many people within a reasonable time, and USCIS is living up to its goal of 30 days or less to get your EAD to many people. And most agencies are responsible for paying your rent with your grant money are doing so on your behalf. But obviously, there are problems here. Thank you for your attention.